What's up guys, it's me, Govcin. Today is the 1st of June and we're back in the garden after a whole week. To me, the surprising thing is to see that the garden has very much slowed down in growth. I don't know if that is due to the nature of the plants that I planted here, if now is the time where they kind of slow down in growth, or if it's due to the fact that the weather has been very wet these past few weeks and it'll continue being wet. There's more rain forecast. It's been raining for the past 2 weeks, almost non-stop, which for me is great from a mushroom forager's perspective. I'm extremely happy. The last year was really dry and there were barely any mushrooms to collect, but seeing as it's raining all the time, that just means more mushrooms, maybe at the expense of the garden, but to me that's fine. Returning to the garden after a week, I saw that the radishes I planted have already germinated. So one of the tasks that I'm gonna do right now is to thin them out, and seeing that we only have one weekend to do a lot of the chores out here, the next thing that I'll do is I have a row of spinach here right next to the radishes and the bok choy here, and they've already served their purpose. They're already beginning to flower, and there are a lot of aphids and ants in this bed, so they have been struggling with aphids, so they haven't been growing really well. So I've decided to just take them out of their misery and just remove them, and I'll use any leaves that I can. So after I've removed them, I've decided to plant another row of radishes. The first row that I planted last week was purple radishes, using my unorthodox approach, as you saw in my last video. So after I remove the spinach, I'll be putting red radishes right next to them, and I'm gonna take a more willy-nilly approach where I'll just scatter the seeds. I'll also scatter some chicken manure pellets so that at least that is constant, and we might be able to compare the results, which approach is better. I'm pretty sure there's not gonna be much of a difference, but I really like the idea of staggering radish planting, because the first radishes I planted, I did 2 rows of them, and at one time I harvested over 50 radishes, and we ended up eating them all, so I'm happy about that. But it was a lot of radishes to process, and towards the end they were kind of becoming gummy. They weren't firm enough. So staggering the radishes is gonna be great, so that once these are ready to harvest, we'll have around 20 to 30 radishes that we can then eat comfortably throughout the week, and the ones that I planted a week later will be ready to harvest next week. So the staggering is really gonna help me be less stressed about having so much produce that we need to eat as soon as possible before it goes bad. I'm just gonna stop talking now, and let's begin by thinning out the radishes and moving on to getting rid of all this spinach and planting new radishes. So having finishing planting the radishes and getting rid of the spinach, it's now time to plant some new seedlings, seeing as there will be a lot more space in the bed in the future. The other spinach will also have to be removed in a couple of weeks' time. So I don't have anything that's really suited for the summer, but I'm thinking that I have some salad seeds and some more bok choy here. And my idea is that once those radishes are out of the ground, I'll be able to put the salads in there because the peas are really tall and they'll be shading it for the first half of the day. And the second half of the day, they will be shaded by the beans that hopefully will at some point get planted into the raised bed to trellis up that arch. And they'll be shaded for most of the day. So even if it's a really hot summer, they might be able to make it there and we can get some harvest of salad. I love salad, so I'll be wanting to plant that. And in addition to that, I have some bush beans, just ordinary green and purple bush beans. They'll be ideal for the summer, so I'll be planting these into plug trays as well. These are 12 cell plug trays, so I'll be putting 6 green, 6 purple like this. And here I'll be putting 6 just ordinary lettuce, 6 ordinary lettuces, 3 plugs of bok choy, and 3 plugs of romaine lettuce. Since I already have some romaine lettuce in there, I'll be putting like 2 or 3 seeds per plug, so it's not just going to be 3 of each. So let's begin by filling up these trays. I already have my soil mix prepared, and as always, all-purpose potting mix with a bit of sand and a lot of perlite, just to make sure that this drains well and the seeds don't just completely drown in water. And I made actually larger drainage holes so that any excess water can drain out of it. So this should help our seedlings and give them really everything they need to start their life. So I'll just begin by putting soil into these plugs. All right, now that the plugs are about 85% full, I'm gonna be starting to place the seedlings in and then cover them with a little bit more soil. So I'll begin by grabbing my ordinary lettuce and I'll be putting 6 of them. I'll be putting 2 seeds per plug. Alright, all the seedlings are in. We got our 6 cells of lettuce, 3 cells of bok choy, and 3 cells of romaine lettuce. So now all we have to do is just cover this up with a bit more soil. And there it is. Our leafy green plug tray has been planted, and now it's time to move on to the bean tray. Okay, perfect. Our beans are now in their plugs, in their cells. I put 2 beans per cell because I'm just very conscious about beans. I've been very unlucky with my bean planting this year, so I'm just putting 2 in just to be safe. So now all that's left to do is to just cover these up with a little bit more soil and then to give both plug trays a little bit of water. Next up is to get these cauliflower seedlings into bigger pots. My idea currently is that the bok choys that are right next to all the radishes, they will be gone in about a week or 2, and in the meanwhile I'll just transplant these cauliflowers into these pots and they'll be here for 2 more weeks developing, and once those bok choys are gone, I'll put the cauliflowers there instead of them. So I have the, as always, the all-purpose potting mix with perlite and a bit of chicken manure pellets, since these ones are already a bit developed, and I want them to grow even stronger in the next 2 weeks before they're ready to go into the raised bed. So as always, I'll begin by transferring the soil into these little pots, and then to get those cauliflowers into the pots. And there we have it, guys. All our 4 cauliflowers have been successfully transplanted into larger pots, and as I mentioned, they will be chilling in these pots for about 2 weeks, maybe even more, and then they'll be ready to go into the raised bed instead of the bok choys. Alright guys, that's most of the gardening things around here finally completed. I honestly thought I would do a lot more, but in all honesty I still need to wait, because in last week's video I showed that I bought a pumpkin and a zucchini plant, and I'm still not sure of where to put it. My idea is to put them instead of the spinach that is around the leeks at the moment, which, considering that I already removed the spinach in the other bed, I will probably be removing next week as well. So I'll be able to put them instead of the spinach. So I'm not gonna deal with that this week. I can finally relax and do some other things around the garden that I can do off camera that are less interesting. Hopefully it will not rain, so I'll be able to cut the grass a bit. And to finish the video off, I just wanted to do a quick rundown of the garden after a week. As I said at the start of the video, the growth hasn't been crazy in the last week, but there are some things that really caught my eye that I'm really excited about. And to begin with is that we already have some zucchinis forming, so I'm very excited about that. They'll be probably ready to harvest in a week or 2, so I'm very looking forward to our first zucchinis. Then we have the tomato plants that are already producing fruit, which is also really exciting. Can't wait to try our first tomatoes of the season. Then we have the broccoli that I really love how the water gathers on the leaves. It's really fun to play around with it. And additionally, there's a really beneficial spider on that broccoli that is like catching a ton of flies and aphids. So hopefully you'll be able to see it on the video. And lastly, the broccoli head is already forming. So that's a new thing for me. Like, I've never grown broccoli before. So to me, it's really exciting to see the broccoli head already forming. Also on the deck, we have the massive potatoes that have grown like crazy since the last few weeks. They're completely out of control. And the potatoes that I planted 2 weeks ago have already come out of their pot. They're looking really beautiful. So I'm very excited about the potatoes. Also, the blueberries are coming along really well. The fruit is really big, and in a couple of months, I think in a month or 2 in August, they should be ready to harvest. So I'm pretty sure they're gonna be really mighty delicious, and I'm pretty sure we're just gonna eat them as they are. We won't be making any jams or anything with them because blueberries are just simply delicious. Lastly, all of the chard and bok choys in the bed around the spinach and all that, they are growing pretty well at the moment. And last week I actually also made a TP for Rocket because it was getting out of control. It was falling over into all of the other plants, so I just made a TP and tied it just to keep things tidy, and a lot of space actually opened up to plant some new stuff. And finally, the peas are growing crazy. There's so many flowers on them. There are a lot of peas already formed that are bulging out at the moment. So the peas are looking beautiful, and our new radishes are in there. The bok choy is there. The dill is also growing pretty crazy, and the carrots are going along really well. So all in all, I'm really happy with how the garden is progressing. Everything's looking really great, and I cannot wait for future results. And pending on our new seedlings that I just planted, and hopefully we can rotate everything out just in time. I didn't really plan very much. I'm not an experienced gardener. This is my first year actually trying to dig deep into gardening, no pun intended, really try my luck at gardening. So I will be making a lot of mistakes. I've learned a lot, like for example that left bed where I just got rid of all the spinach. I know that there are a lot of ants there, and they're bringing in all the aphids. So in that bed I'll be planting stuff that will not be affected by aphids. So as I said before, I'll be putting in the cauliflowers, and once the bok choy is out, I'll probably put in the pumpkin and the watermelon that we bought as well. And the right bed with all the tomatoes and zucchinis, I'll put in the other zucchini there as well, and I'll be putting in more leafy greens into there that will not be affected by aphids. And finally, as I mentioned, once the radishes are complete in about 3 or 4 weeks, once I harvest them, I'll be putting in those salads that I just planted into the plug trays, because I'm thinking that they'll probably be able to survive the heat of the summer there, seeing as they will be mostly shaded by the peas and the beans that I finally somehow managed to get my climbing beans to germinate. They still haven't come out of their plugs, but I was really curious and I dug a little bit, and I already saw that the beans have their little sprout coming out. So finally I'll be able to get the beans and get them on that arch that I bought. I was really sad that none of my beans went well, because I felt like I bought the arch for no reason. So yeah, I'm really happy about the garden, and seeing as I gathered a ton of mushrooms yesterday, but I am completely addicted to mushroom foraging, so I'll be going into the forest again right now. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Like, comment and subscribe, and see you next time, and have a lovely day.